Are you there, Greg?
Hey, everybody. Yes, I'm here.
We are ready to go.
Yeah, took a couple minutes to get on. I don't know why. So we ready to call the meeting to order? All right, I'll call the meeting to order. 3:17.
We got the record on. Diane?
Yes or no?
I can't see where it says we're recording.
Looks like it's recording.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go. It took me a minute to find unmute.
Ready to go, Greg?
All right, I'll call the meeting to order now. 3:17, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. All right. Welcome,
You guys-
everyone. Thanks for showing up. I can't tell how many people we have. I'm trying to look. I don't see enough. Anyway, do we have a quorum? Do we know? Or?
Depends on, I can tell you the attendance list, but I don't know who counts and who doesn't on this stuff. On
Usually
quorum.
it shows me how many people are on, but I don't see it right now.
Yeah, well,
We'll get started. I guess the first thing is, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the June meeting? And if not, can you do that right now?
shouldn't we establish if we have a quorum?
I guess you had to vote on it, right?
Come again?
Does anybody on staff know if we have a quorum?
Yeah, I'm looking. We have Brian Slade, Greg, Julie, Ked, Sarah Lynn, Marie, Bruce Blue. Do I see Matt? I don't see Matt. But that's quorum.
Matt was there earlier in person.
I know, we just saw him.
All right, so I guess it seems like we do have a quorum. Thank you, Sarah Lynn.
Can we see the minutes, the minutes, more of the minutes, please?
Sure.
While people are looking at the minutes, also just want to mention that I just went, and a couple of us came back from Keith Hackett officially. He didn't retire. He left his current position and went to work for MSD. So there was a going away party, which was a pretty nice affair.
Cool. What's he gonna do for them?
I'm not sure. Anybody know?
I think it's a facilities director or manager position.
And nobody talked about that. There was a lot of talk about the last. I didn't believe he'd been there 18 years.
No.
I remember when he first came on.
Yep, we're getting old.
Yeah, don't speak.
I move
Speak for yourself.
to approve the minutes as written.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Anyone opposed or need more time? No. The minutes are approved. Thank you.
Okay. Let me take those off.
Yep. Thank you. Somebody's got a puppy dog. But,
Yeah.
so,
Oh, sorry. Just trying to make it a little bit bigger for y'all.
okay.
Here is the agenda for today.
So the next thing is the recovering self-haul waste questionnaire. I assume staff is going to report out to us on the responses.
Well, Diane, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we received two. And I know that we had one from Waste Management and one that we completed here.
We do. I do have them on a comparative graph if you want to see Marie Burnett's and yours together, or it's up to you.
I think we can show them separately. And well, yeah, just pull up one or the other and we can kind of talk through the questions.
to how many companies did we send the questionnaire, please?
Thank you. Yeah.
Went to 4.
And did we follow up with the other two?
Yeah,
Yes.
we did have some follow-up. There were questions, number one, where it went to legal. And the other one was questions about, because the waste ends up in another county, does it still apply in that case? And the answer was yes. So at this point, I think it was pretty late in the game. So it's a little late to get it in, I believe.
If I may add, this is Bruce, and I'm sorry to barge in, but under RCRA, the generator is responsible for their waste from cradle to grave. Should we choose to separate that waste, the question is who bears legal liability of that waste following separation? And that is the question that legal is debating right now. So that's something we need to consider as we move forward in this.
Bruce, do you mind clarifying why that's even relevant to what we're talking about doing, please?
Certainly, because if you send me concrete that has been absorbent of toluene over the last 30 years or PCBs, and I grind that material, or if I have any type of material that comes in and self-haul that has lead-based paint on that I find a reuse for, who becomes the rightful owner of that waste when it's received and sold? Because in RCRA, anything coming in the facility for disposal is supposed to be sold or disposed of. Anything that comes in for recycling, in turn, is required to be recycling.
Sarah Lynn, we have that same problem with scrap, with paint.
But I'm still not hearing the connection to the idea that we would require some recycling at these self-haul facilities. Or am I off? Am I on the wrong topic?
No, the idea is that these self-haul facilities would create more diversion because self-haul waste only, according to the study, only 7% of it is actually recycled when the majority of the material is actually recyclable.
Right.
So it would come in, and as it is separated under the guise of recovery and recycling, that is what the purpose of this is.
Right. I thought that was the whole point of doing this, right?
So back to Bruce, what I followed what you said, but I'm still not. I mean, I guess is somebody in theory entertaining the idea that we would require waste concrete to be recycled and reused?
Well, I think it votes for every waste stream. And Brian, please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but under RCRA and the Cradle to Grave Responsibility Act, the generator of the waste is responsible for that waste even after it's been disposed of. And if they designate it for disposal coming into the facility and we recover something from that, who then becomes owner of the waste and who's responsible for it from this part moving forward? So
Bruce, if I could, Bruce, if the container that the person put it in was designated as a recyclable material container, wouldn't that be their intent?
That would be their intent, but would it be reality, Pete? How much contamination do you have in your recyclable containers?
So, clarifying question, is it the case that this concern could have come up a couple of years ago, long before we had this idea, and that it's just happens to be coming up now? Because I'm still not seeing how this would be any different than what I put out in my roll cart, for example.
I would tell you that it will be much different if they go into the county recycling facilities and the county takes ownership of the material and disperses it as such. But when it goes into a facility such as a Rumpke transfer station and it's designated to be disposed of, and we chose to redirect that waste, it becomes an issue for us.
But I think in this case, it's the customer that maintains control until they put it into that container, which is clearly marked as recyclable. So it's not necessarily that you're taking possession of trash and Rumpke is filling up the dumpsters. It is that that customer is filling the dumpster. So
Correct.
I'm not sure where the possession can come into play.
So to Bruce's point, I think, one of the things is we're talking about RCRA and Cradle Grave, and that's something that, a waste generator, like a business, is a standard they're held to. But a homeowner is not held to those standards. There's a lot of exemptions for homeowners disposing of waste, especially, when it comes to recyclables like this. But, say a homeowner, has a driveway removed and replaced, and they did the demo themselves and rented a skid steer, and they parked and worked on cars there for 30 years, or the previous owners did. The owner may have no knowledge of that, and it's contaminated with motor oil and other, solvents that just ended up there all the time. They, unknowingly, they don't know anything about RCRA. It doesn't apply to them. They're a homeowner. They bring it in, put it on there. And if we, as the county, take this waste in, have somebody crush it, it goes back out. If there's any sampling done and it comes back hot, for example, so it comes back with hits of PCB or toluene, anything like that now this is a special waste. We're not going to, talk about hazardous waste. Whose responsibility is that? I think it's what Bruce is getting at is, and then, that's something that the generator, they're not liable for it. But if we're accepting that waste and going to be putting it back out, there has to be some level of assurance that what is going out is clean, regardless of where it came in from. And there would need to be some sort of checks on the front end to try to identify, potential hazards in these loads. And I'm sure that we can work with, ICA or, what's the place out on Old Henry Road that takes in a bunch of clean fill?
Natural products.
Yeah, that they have some systems in place because they're taking in clean fill, they're taking in concrete, and they've got to have something that says, we feel like this is free of lead, free of asbestos, free of, chemicals before we're going to grind it and mix it all together, and you'd never be able to find it again or know whose it was. So I think, Bruce, is that pretty close to what you're
Yes.
getting at?
Thank you for clarifying, Kedrick, because I was more thinking on the roofers coming in and they take out siding that has had years and years of lead-based paint applied to it. And it goes into the metal container. We don't know who put that in the metal container. At the end of the day, it goes over to the metal recycler and it's hazardous for lead.
Yep.
But don't we have this problem already? Or this responsibility already?
Not really. When it comes to a landfill or a transfer station, it's normally disposed of.
Yeah.
And it remains their responsibility.
Yeah. So if it goes to, if what we're taking in at the waste reduction center, if we take in, siding, for example, that has lead paint on it, that goes straight to the landfill. There's no, that's the end disposal site. There's no further risk to the environment or community, theoretically, if it's going to the landfill. And if it comes from a homeowner, it's exempt from any of those, RCRA standards to a certain degree. And that's, I think, generally, there's a lot of businesses that use the waste reduction center, but, a good chunk of that material is coming directly from homeowners, self-haul, things like that. So I think that is a valid concern that we need to, be aware of is potential, contamination of materials and what our, as the county's liability is if we're, sending this stuff out for recycling and we don't know where it came from. We become the generator of it.
Correct.
Could
And
I,
whereas homeowners are exempt when it comes into our facility and then we transport that material, we become the responsible party as the owner of that waste.
Yeah.
And we are not exempt. So that's just one concern, one example of a concern that kind of throws a monkey wrench at this a bit.
Well, Bruce,
Yeah.
I think there's some question as to that, as to whether or not that you would be. Been talking a lot to a person that wants to do something where she picks up the waste from homeowners and brings it to the has-been, which is going to actually come up in our advisory committee meeting. And one of the things about that is, you know, does she bear the responsibility? And from my understanding of working with the state and the questions, they say no, that she does not bear that responsibility. I don't know if it's a good idea for us to do, but I've talked with Duke York, I've talked with other individuals. I think her bigger thing is DOT, but if it's residentially generated, you know, she could do that. We're talking about hazardous materials. It all comes down to whether or not that you're identifying it and how you're handling it, I believe. So I think it does pose some good questions, but the liability question does need to be looked at and addressed.
I would recommend that we get some sort of ruling from the state as well as federal EPA. And with regard to this and anything like that that's being hauled, we have documented from the state and the federal EPA that is homeowners' waste and not a commercial waste stream.
Federals basically wouldn't help us a whole lot because they delegate so much of their stuff to the states. I believe so, but we can check into it. We'll get with Region 4. Bruce, and if Rumpke's attorneys are taking a look at it, any kind of opinion that they can come back with would surely be appreciated.
Yeah, homeowner generated hazardous waste in any kind of quantity is, from my experience, at the state level, kind of a gray area. Just a quick example of that is like the tornado that hit West Liberty back 10 years ago. We rounded up all of the household hazardous waste and had to sort and dispose of all of it for the state. And that got really, really complicated because we assumed it all came, it was all tornado debris. So it was just, paint cans, stuff like that. And the state and the disposal companies had a very hard time jiving on who was responsible for that waste and who was the so to speak generator of that waste. And the state ended up having to assume liability of generation to get disposal on that.
We did the same thing in our flood debris back in the day, but we didn't have that issue.
Yeah.
It was considered exempt.
Can I say something that's Bruce Blue? It's not working that way in the scrap business or the recycling business, because if we buy something with paint or lead and somehow we get it in the air, we've either cut it with a shear or torch and it gets in the air, we're responsible. And we've been working on that for a week last week in some board meetings, so it may be different for us.
If I could bring up sort of an agenda point or whatever, I actually totally understand this concept and I understand what we're talking about. But to try and get our meeting going again, can I ask, is it possible, maybe I'm naive, that this gets resolved between the different lawyers from the companies and the city and the state? And it's something that we could put on a questionnaire. I guess I'm wondering why it wasn't answered. The questionnaire just saying, with this caveat, or until this is resolved, we're not going to do it. But I guess what I'm getting at is, can we keep looking at the questionnaires and trying to make progress with that caveat that if this isn't solved, the companies, the waste haulers don't want to handle it?
I will check again with legal. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. So I will bring it up, Greg, and to give you a position on where our company stands. And I would suggest the other companies do the same.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what are you saying, just to wait then and not do anything, or what? I'm not sure.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying that it's a question that I recommend be answered, and I'm not on this subcommittee,
Yeah,
but just as a recommendation that we consider this prior to moving forward, because, it could be an issue.
yeah, I understand that, but I guess if it does or doesn't get resolved would be a showstopper or not a showstopper, but does that mean we should stop looking at anything else until it is resolved?
No, actually, if it does not get resolved with Rumpke, then Rumpke would just not accept ICI and self-haul type of material.
Yeah, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. To me, it's like it's going to happen or not going to happen, but it's not for anybody sitting here right now to solve. I think it's a legal issue with the lawyer, right?
It has to do, it's basically a question and answer from the state and the feds with
Right.
regard to responsibility.
Right. I agree.
I don't want to tend to practice law, but as an ex-landfill manager, I'm very sensitive to these issues.
It was a little hard to hear that as something, what with these issues?
I'm very sensitive to these issues with regard to the responsibility of waste.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. I'm just wondering, where do we go next from here now then?
Well, do we think it could be resolved between now and the next meeting, or is this going to be something that's going to be going on for a long time?
Well, I think as we reach out to our legal staff and all the other companies reach out to their legal staffs, we need to reach out as a committee or a subcommittee to the state and get their ruling on it in written form, as well as if there's any approvals from the feds that's required from Region 4 to approve of this activity.
Well, I have to say that doesn't sound like it'll happen in a month.
Well, am I hearing that we want to make a motion from this committee to make that request officially, or is that not what I heard?
That's a good idea.
Okay, I mean, can we do that and then keep going? I'm okay with doing that.
Mhm. Hey, Pete, I know we're not the only city to be looking at doing these programs or doing these programs. Is there a way you could reach out to any of the other cities that you know that have a similar, program as this, and see how they've negotiated the kind of the legal hoops that we're talking about here?
We can check on that. I think it's interesting in the concepts here because I know a lot of cities do this. So I think there'll be plenty of precedent out there. The bad thing about it is it's not in Kentucky. Kentucky has its own rules. So while we may get it from other cities, it may not be exactly applicable, but I'm sure that there are some learnings. I believe that's a good idea.
Well, and I think, a lot of times, the RCRA standard is going to be followed for the most part. I know there's different interpretations and different stuff in each state, but, I think the big questions we need answered as to like who's responsible for the waste, that I think those cities would have those answers to that. And once we get down to the minutia from, the different companies, if they feel comfortable taking it or what this, state is, but I think in the short term, we can get a, quick answer to how they've navigated it.
Mhm. So just to make sure, and I think what I heard you all say is that there would be a motion for staff to reach out to do certain things. And I think I just want to make sure that we're asking the correct questions for the committee. Basically, in a nutshell, Ked said, "Who is responsible for the waste?" Is that seems to be the crux of the matter? Is that simple as far as that question is? Is that going to? Are we asking everything that we need to ask? I mean, I can describe the scenario.
Basically, the question is who is responsible for the cradle to grave responsibility of the waste under RCRA.
And don't we need some design assumptions here? Like, for purposes of discussion, are we assuming that somebody is supervising the unloading of the vehicles, or are we assuming that the public can dump when you're not looking? But it seems to me that the level of oversight needs to be defined in the question, or we're not really making any progress.
Well, I agree. The question of supervision is definitely pertinent. I think if you have that supervision, whether it's at the gate as it comes through, but you can't always see everything, or it's a passive camera systems that identify and watch the people as they dump, and you have their tag information,
Right.
or you have somebody physically at the site, kind of like at our recycling facilities, that watch the material as it comes in. So there's several different ways to overcome it, I believe. But it still has the question. But I agree that does come into play.
Because it's kind of like how do you define due diligence in this sort of a situation?
But I think they're just asking the general question. But so, do we have a question, or does anyone else want to add to it or formulate it officially? I'd like somebody to make, I guess, a motion to ask the question, and then we'll vote on it.
I think the question should come from one of the businesses that has concerns.
Yeah. Well, Ted gave us a shot at it a little bit. Bruce gave a shot at it a little bit. Do we have a consensus, or does
No, I
anyone
think
want to read what they think the question should be?
we need a formal motion.
Motion just because I'm not on the subcommittee, I don't believe.
Yeah, okay. Ted, do you want to try and make the question, formulate the question as a motion?
I guess we could, I guess, let me talk it out here and y'all tell me if I'm right. So
Yeah.
we'd be making a motion
Right.
to charge staff with reaching out to other cities with self-haul recovery programs and essentially see where the legalities lie with generator status.
And I think, don't they want to also reach out to the state?
And to reach out to the state to discuss, responsibilities and generator status.
Yeah.
Does that
Claire,
sound?
I have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Is the problem at the state or federal level? Because if the problem is with RCRA, which is a piece of federal legislation, I fear that regardless of what the state says, then we're going to hear, well, that doesn't mean anything. Or if we reach out to another state and they say, oh, this works in our state, it doesn't mean it's going to work it works in their state. It may not work in ours. So I think we need a little more definition yet as to where do we think the problem is that we're trying to resolve.
The resolution would be at the state level, but because there's nobody in our state that's doing this, we're essentially going to be the test case. So I feel like reaching out to other states, even though it's different, if we provided that information to the state of Kentucky's DEP, would help guide them to how to handle us, because there's nobody else in the state doing this, so they can't say, oh yeah, you do this and it's fine. We're going to be writing the rule book as we go. So I think we have to do a little more research into how other states are managing this to be able to help the state of Kentucky make the correct guidance.
I just want to ask a question. Do we truly know we're the only ones in the state trying to do this?
I can't say that we are. I know that we wouldn't be the only people in the state accepting concrete and and stuff like that. But
I think we would definitely be the only county in the state handling this volume of waste. If it's in rural counties, it's like a roundup type event, or some of the northern Kentucky suburbs may be similar, but Lexington doesn't do anything like this. They have a transfer station similar to how the Waste Reduction Center operates, but this would be a much different scale, I feel, than what any other cities I'm familiar with are doing.
Kedrick, I would recommend we touch base with the US EPA Region 4 as well.
Yeah, and you know, likely they would probably defer us to the state. From my experience, they matters of waste disposal within state bounds, they typically decline to engage on them.
But it's reasonable to ask that, because that way
Yes.
then you have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess so I'll rephrase this. So I guess I'll make a motion to charge staff with 3 items, which is reaching out to Region 4 of the federal EPA, the State Division of Environmental Protection, and any other, cities in the U.S. that are running similar programs to see how they have worked around generator status and responsibility of wastes received
From residential
or commercial.
customers.
Yeah,
Can I say
residential.
something? Can I say something else?
Yeah.
There are 8 shredders in the state of Kentucky. They're all buying material that, aluminum siding, it could have lead on it, get up in the air. They're buying, some concrete, get on it. So this is a federal problem. And they're starting to monitor air and water and all that, what's coming in. So it is a federal problem along with the state.
Mhm.
Well, that's why we're going to ask the region EPA, right? Okay. Is it, anybody else want to add to the question or do anything? And Bruce, even though you're not on the committee, are you okay with that question's wording? Bruce Burrell?
Sorry, a little late on the unmute button. Yes, I'm agreeable to that wording.
Okay. Has staff got that recorded adequately?
We have it recorded.
Okay. Does anyone want to second the motion?
I want to ask the clarifying question of,
Okay.
because I believe what Bruce Burrell was saying was that his attorneys are going to look into this themselves. And I'm wondering, will we get to hear what they find? Because I don't want us to spend another month on an elusive thing. I would like to see that we're going to have some mutual effort to get to the bottom of this.
Well, in all
Did you
honesty,
say that, Bruce?
yes, and if I may respond, in all honesty, attorneys will have an opinion, but that opinion will only be our opinion until it's run by the state and it's actually litigated. So
Oi.
we have to, live off our opinions until we get some clarification from the state and the feds. And that's why I recommend we reach out to both.
They
So
may
are
not-
you actually saying that the industry is going to fight us no matter what?
No,
When you
Right.
said it has to be litigated, that's
You just-
what I'm
you used
hearing.
The term litigation, I think you mean either litigation or a declaration by these entities.
I don't think, this is Marie, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I don't think
Yeah.
any of us know the answer to that, and that's what Bruce is saying. So we're no litigation. I'm just assuming we're seeking information, right?
Yeah.
right. Maybe litigation was too strong a word, but
Okay.
yes, we are seeking an opinion from the state and the federal government regarding that issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone second the motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm
Hearing
sorry,
none.
who seconded it?
Bruce Blue.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing none, I say the motion has passed. Thank you. All right. We're over halfway through the meeting. Do we want to start looking at the slides that are up?
I just want to say hello to the little guy there.
Yeah.
Hi.
Somebody's getting big.
Yes, they are. Looks just like his daddy if he had a beard.
Yeah. Well, I have to shave him to go to daycare so he doesn't look too old to be in daycare.
How old?
He's a little over 2. He's almost 2.5.
Wow.
So he's the size of a 4-year-old, but
He looks, yeah, I was gonna say 4.
So his daddy's big, so you know.
yeah. He's home from school this week. He's sick, so
Oh,
he gets to work with dad at home.
he's a ham. He's a ham.
He's
like
so
his daddy,
camera
too.
shy.
All right, the questionnaire.
If it makes sense.
So while we have this in front of us, would it be better if, we have 2 responses? If Marie just discussed the first question and we just kind of go through like that, and, I can discuss it for Metro as it is. That'd be the easiest way to do it.
Are you okay with that?
We're going to discuss the questionnaire with only the response of WM right now.
No,
Is that what you're asking?
you discuss your answer to question 1, and I'll discuss the second question for Metro.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I don't have any lawyer present, and I haven't had our lawyers look at this. I just wanted to, I wanted something to go off of so we could move on.
So, I guess we're just reading it ourselves, or?
Well, what are the benefits and what are the challenges of self-haul customers using our facility? We get a lot of self-haul customers at the landfill. We've got a citizens area for the self-haul customers, and that's with customers that are literally just, cleaning out their basement or whatever the case may be. And it's junk. They don't bring in, they don't bring us metal anymore. We don't get white goods. We don't take them. We don't take tires. We do not take shingles. We don't even get shingles anymore, really. So, I don't know. I think it's a safety concern, a huge safety concern for us. And then we are responsible for it when it comes through that gate. I know that for a fact. We don't waive responsibility. I mean, we are a Fortune 300 company, and Cradle to Grave, Bruce is absolutely right about all of that, but I just wanted us to have something to get started. But my biggest concern and the company's biggest concern is safety. I mean, how do we make sure folks are doing what they're supposed to do and not scavenging? And I mean, when you're getting 600, 700 trucks a day and it's all direct haul, and we are under construction every year, all year, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to do this.
Marie, do you, I have a question. Do you feel like the, I don't want to say quality, that's not the right word, but if we're looking at it as like a recycling stream, I guess it would be quality. Do you think the quality is indicative that you guys are a landfill and people, if there is value to something, people are already kind of source separating that, and what's left over is what comes to you?
That's exactly right. We're starting on the wrong end. When it comes to our loop, we're in the wrong end of the business.
Mm-hmm. And you guys as a facility, I mean, somebody takes something all the way to the face and dumps it out. There's really not an opportunity to sort through it when it's there. It's
no,
going
absolutely not.
Station, dumped on a floor. It's not something it's easy for you guys to get at it, even if there is something, of value in there.
Yeah, we would never do this at the working phase.
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
at all. But yeah, even if I was just thinking of our citizens area, just to be, because that's the spot I have right now, right? And I've had it there for 10 years. I have no room there to do this sort of sorting thing. And then who operates the equipment that's needed to sort it? That's on the onus of WM, and who pays us for that? Because there's nowhere for me to take this stuff. And I know that, and I was happy to hear that that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for homes, for maybe commodities, for concrete, shingles, and drywall. It looked like when I looked at this thing you sent out, Pete.
Well, I think when we, in the C&D processing facility and the C&D, like for road base, that is kind of what we was talking about, is those three commodities. In this regard, we are talking about those loads that come from households, you know, in a pickup truck or on a little trailer. We're talking about residential self-haul material, almost exclusively here.
I just gotta say, I mean, if we want tonnage diverted, and you want volume, that's what you're looking for, right? Isn't that what we're looking for, to divert from the big bad landfill? Residential is not the way to go. I mean, how are you going to get any volume? I mean, I don't know why we would start here, but
I don't think that
my opinion.
I don't think that we're starting here. I think this is just one of many different initiatives, and you know, this does not have the biggest impact of all of the materials that we're looking at, or waste sectors. C&D probably has the biggest waste impact in tons of material. So this was just one of them, and one that we're looking at. So, you know, if I can kind of go ahead and describe what we do a little bit. So just like anything else, you know, it's a core service that we offer to all Louisville Metro customers and citizens. Some of it is drop off for free. We do that, you know, and hopefully it prevents a lot of the illegal dumping on the side of the road, you know, by the judgment of how many things you see out there. Maybe it's not really successful at that, but anyway, what we're doing is already in our facility is separating a lot of different materials that come in, and those loads that come in, while they are mostly junk, when you start to break them down, you do find a lot of different materials in there. And the education part of this and the enforcement side of this is that you know, over time, people start to understand that when you go to one of these self-haul facilities, you have your stuff separated. You put it in that dumpster yourself. You're not dropping it on the ground. It's kind of like what we're doing at our pop-up drop-off events. You know, it's the same stuff that was always as far as the junk drop-off events, but we're diverting probably 40 to 50% of the material that's coming in versus prior to that, pretty close to zero. So, you know, we're taking the same stuff at the pop-up drop-offs, and we are finding a lot of different materials. And when it does come in at like the WRC, if it comes in and it's one of three items, it's for free. But any other, and I think any other material comes in above that, they do have to pay for. So it does take care of the recycling and shipping of the material. And if you look at the what was suggested by the study people, was that it's not to charge. It's not that it's not free. It's not free. It just has to be less than disposal. So the incentive that is there to separate your material into the individual containers. So that's kind of where, as far as the WRC now, when I talk with our people about what goes on, part of the issue is people getting materials in there that shouldn't go in there. And these are things that shouldn't even go into the landfill. So you're always, regardless of the facility, and even if it's a transfer station from my point of view, we're always having to police it to keep stuff out of the waste stream that doesn't belong in the waste stream. So yeah, you have to watch people and what they put in, but that's something that we already are doing.
Well, do we have any idea, the others that didn't respond? I mean, to me, question number 2 was an invitation to tell us what would work for the regulated body. Do we have any idea if the other members of the regulated body have thought about what their answer might be? Because it looks to me like, Marie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks to me like you're effectively saying the status quo works for you guys just fine. Thank you very much.
No, that's not what I said. I was just answering the questions that you all gave me.
Well, when I see the answer of number 2 starts out with the word none, that suggests that you don't see any room for improvement, and I'm inviting you to clarify, please.
Well, then I guess the first thing you said was correct then.
Okay.
Well, let me ask a question. If, I know it, if someone at any disposal facility, and it's not talking about at a working face, we're talking about if it can be done as safely as possible, just like it has to be done safely now. If there was a metal bucket and that's all we wanted, is as you're pulling your stuff off, hey, throw the metal in this bucket. I would think that we would want to do that. And, because obviously.
So I answered these questions, but I sat, I think I devoted, 4 hours altogether. I mean, I passed my citizens area, several times a week. I have to travel now, but, we get very little metal. And I think Kent already said that we used to get more and we pulled it. We pulled it actually at the working face. We had a grapple mag there. We had 2 magnets, actually. We still have them. But we just don't see them. We used to get carts from Kroger and, or not Kroger, the metal carts. When we had metal, they were getting rid of all of them. It was Kroger. We used to get things from UPS that were metal that we just don't get anymore. We used to get a lot of metal, what do you call those, file cabinets? So they're going somewhere else. So I'm not saying the status quo is working completely and we're not interested. That is not what I'm saying. I just simply thought I'd answer the questions because I knew we needed some answers. But we don't see what we used to. I'm not saying that we're not willing to try something or look into anything, but it is different than it was, a decade ago or even 5 years ago.
So I agree with you, Maria. As the commodity price for metal goes up and down, we can definitely see a difference in what gets into the waste stream. People do pick it out, because of its value. There are things that you have to pull out. Obviously, if you guys see a tire that gets put into your landfill, do you guys grab that? It comes in a load and somebody has a few tires.
Yes.
Do you guys grab it?
Yes, we have a tire. We have 2 roll-offs for tires. In the 30 or 40 yard dumpsters, because we have 4 of them at our citizens area, we do have a loader that goes back and forth through there, and he kind of watches the facility, but we all drive past it all the time, so it's hard to get tires in because we have cameras for load checks when they come through the scales. But yes, we do have two containers. Is that what you're asking me? Like, could we grab those out?
I'm just thinking of things that we're already grabbing out. And, you know, I think the question of improper materials getting in there is a valid issue, but we do already search for that kind of stuff, and we do already try to keep even some of those things out of the landfill. Marie, can you describe for everybody what your citizen area looks like? Is it monitored at all? Is it how big is it? Is it multiple dumpsters? Do people throw it off, or do they have to pick stuff up and put it into a dumpster? How does it work?
So they do have to self-unload. Yeah, absolutely. They're for self-haul trucks or citizens that don't dump, that they all use the citizens area, which is all concrete. We have 4 40-yard dumpsters. And is it monitored 24/7 or while we're there? Pretty much. I mean, there's always one of us driving around, or the loader may be there. We used to get, when I first started years and years ago, we used to get has-been materials. They would just put them on the concrete pair. And I guess after so long, of shooing people away, we don't have the issues that we used to. Our issues more are safety related and not the wrong thing coming into the landfill. Actually, they usually find things before they ever get past the scale. And then, of course, we do load inspections all day.
So if those 4 dumpsters for MSW, if one of them was turned into a metal dumpster, one of them was turned into a clean wood dumpster, one of them was turned into a concrete dumpster or a shingle dumpster, whatever, you're really not changing necessarily the safety aspect of it, because they're still self-unloading into those individual containers. But
Pete, I can't get the people to put the shit in the dumpsters.
well,
but I understand what you're saying.
We all deal with that. That's for dang sure. Yeah. So the question about, if you can get them to put them in the dumpsters and stuff like that, and a lot of that is the same daggone thing over and over and over. You say that the fact that people aren't bringing the hazardous materials in there like they were means that people can learn and to do it a certain way. So that's kind of my question is, are we really changing much up other than having them sort it when they get there?
So go ahead, Sarah.
Clarifying question, just to make sure I'm not missing something here. Marie, when you say you have the 4 40-yard dumpsters, am I hearing correctly? People just offload their stuff into the dumpster and then you all transport that dumpster out to the working face?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So I guess my question for you, Marie, is can you briefly tell us like what you guys don't accept there?
Sure. We don't take white goods. We don't take any appliances. We don't take anything with Freon. I guess that says it all, right? We don't take tires. We don't take hazardous waste. Those are the big ones.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my thought from this is, each of these facilities here in the county that do accept self-haul are already forcing some amount of source separation because they list out things they take and things they don't take. So, so what's going to the landfill, because you guys don't take tires, you guys don't take white goods, you don't take electronics, or you probably don't see a lot of electronics. You guys don't accept those things, so people aren't bringing them to you. So you can't really pull that out of the waste stream if it never comes to you. And I don't think that part of this committee is trying to, force you guys as a business to say, hey, now you got to start accepting white goods and sort those. You got to start accepting tires and sort those. I feel like from my standpoint, you know, we need to look at what the base level is in the county and what people are already, you know, what buckets, you know, the different self-haul facilities are already making people sort into, and seeing, you know, where the deficiencies are. And like from my experience, like, you know, concrete, for example, as a homeowner, there is no easy way to dispose of concrete in this county. Like if I busted up a little sidewalk in my backyard and had, you know, 10 5-gallon buckets full of concrete rubble, I can't take that to the waste reduction center. They don't accept it. I'd have to take it somewhere else. A lot, you know. So like that's I guess my biggest question is to see, you know, what people are turning away, and, you know, not really what they're taking and what we can save out of that waste stream, because I feel like people are already, you know, sort of separating just from the fact of saying, we don't take this, we don't take white goods, you know, so they're never going to see those. Does that make sense?
We're surrounded
Does.
by facilities that take scrap. So we see, I mean, you can imagine we see very little of anything that's worth of value because of all of our neighbors. And that's fine with me. When we got a lot more metal, we separated it, and we did it at the working face. We didn't ever think of doing it at the citizens area, because the people that are bringing things to us on a normal basis, they've already taken anything that was worth money out of, because they don't want to pay to dispose of it. So if they can get rid of it, which metal is really the only, I think maybe the only thing, maybe there's more and I just don't know about them, but metal for sure. And clean wood, I don't even know, what is clean wood? Is it pallets?
It's the same as pallets. It's like 2x4s and such. When we do the pop-up drop-off events, we put pallets, yard waste, clean wood in the same container. That's generally where the wood goes. And you know, during the study, they did take a look at the incoming loads, and they categorized it into the different commodities of self-haul, C&D, you know, MSW, multifamily, wherever that truck was coming from, and they sampled it. So we do have a baseline of what the material is. Now, obviously, when metal goes up, you see a lot less of it. At our pop-up drop-off events, I've been pleasantly surprised at how much metal we're collecting. And we don't take anything that's Freon containing either. So, you know, we won't even entertain that. So, you know, I think that there's probably more there than what we think when you start to break it down.
Well, it's 4:15. It's 4:15 and we're still on the first slide, so I don't know. Where do we go from here?
Talk about it the next time.
Yeah. So we did pass at least the resolution to ask a question. How many more slides were there, just by the way?
Quite a few.
Quite a few, yeah.
Just those, it was 9 questions.
Yeah, I think that we need to be able to, at least staff needs to be able to have a few minutes before the next meeting starts at 4:30. So
Yeah.
the sooner we can break, the better.
Okay. Well,
I move we end the meeting.
yeah, sorry we didn't get to cover all the questions. But so there's been a motion to end the meeting. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a good discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See most of you in 15 minutes.
Is it a different login? The same one.